Hi, this is Bonnie, and I just received recently the PaperCraft Society box that had Christmas items in it from Lisa Horton. And this is the first time I've ever purchased a PaperCraft product, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to get. But what I do know is that I am going to alter this box, and I'm going to be using some of the products that were inside of the box and possibly other Lisa Horton products, but I'm going to use other things besides that. Two of the tools to start with is I'm going to be using a paper piercer, and I'm going to be using, I call this a X-Acto knife, a cutting knife. And the other thing I'm going to be using is, this is not a Lisa Horton product, is a Tim Holtz twin lights, so that I can light this box up. That's my intention. So I haven't made one before because this is one of a kind, and I thought I'd do this as I'm going. And what I typically do is I look at the outside of the box and figure out what kind of an opening that I'm going to have and what I might possibly put inside. I'm going to show you the box inside is basically like a red burgundy color. That might help or not help, I don't know. So if that's helpful to you, you could actually draw a line around this. I'm not going to because I don't want to have to erase it. So I'm just going to freehand whatever it is that I want to do. And I'm looking at the designs around and then the extra space. Obviously, I'm not going to keep the PaperCraft logo on it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it this way so you can see a little bit better. All I do is I just start cutting away. Not that you need to watch this entire process, but that's how I do it, is I just decide, okay, what do I want? And then I can come back in and cut more if I want to. So I don't, how do I want to say this? It's kind of like hemming pants. If you don't want them to be too short, you're afraid that what you're doing is too short, then you just give yourself a little bit more space and come back and make them a different length. So this is all I'm doing, is I'm just kind of like cutting around. And I'm also thinking about, I am going to be putting some of the lights so that they are, I think the word is protruding on top. So it's lighting the outside and the inside of the box. That's how I'm trying to think about it. Now there's a spot I noticed right here when I was looking that it kind of like overhangs the word. It's not really going to matter for what we're going to do because I also layer things on the outside of the box. So it doesn't take as long as what you think it might take. And having the box like this allows me to have the pressure that I need for pushing. It would be harder if I just had the box open for me. But you do what works good for you. This is what works well for me. As you can tell, this is not really taking a really long time. And you can do whatever you want to. You don't have to follow this exact same design. You can do whatever you want. This is how I'm going to start. Okay. Go ahead and pull that out. It almost looks like, for a second there, it almost looks like a tissue box. And you can make the space bigger depending on what you want to see below. And I can see already that I am probably going to add a little bit because this looks like a smaller opening. So I am going to go ahead and make this bigger. Like I told you, I'd go smaller first, and then you can add what you want. And I can tell right away that I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. But I want to keep the design, so that's important to me. And I do want to keep some of these gold spots up above. But I do want it to be a little bit bigger. I think I'm going to go take some of that away. I kind of, let's see. I think I'm going to come down here a little bit further. If I have that little bit, I can come back with scissors too and cut that. I think that's what I'll do. All right, I think this, you can see a couple of spots are a little bit rough here. All I'm going to do is use my scissors to trim those back. I think you can see how I'm doing that. Probably should have used smaller scissors that fit in that hole better. Anyway, a lot of that stuff's probably going to be covered up anyway. So it kind of looks kind of a little bit wonky, but it'll be fine once I get going. So then the next thing that I'll do is I will figure out my arrangement for my lights and where I want them to be. And then we're going to be attaching this. And I'm going to attach this so that it'll be strung through the back of the box or the bottom of the box, probably the side. I think I'm going to do the side. And what I'll do is I'll make a big enough hole. This is not a really huge amount of lights, but it's plenty for what we need to do to design this box. And that didn't take very long to get that part done anyway, if you kind of like know what you want to do. So the biggest, I need to string this through, but I only need to have a hole big enough so that these LED lights will string through it. So what I'll do is basically I'm going to have to, this box closes like this. This piece will go inside. Get this piece out of the way. So you have to keep that in mind, what the intention is. Okay, so I'm going to take it over to the side, and I'm going to make it so that I can turn this on easily. So this will be attached to the side. And if I don't want it to show, I can always cover this up with some paper or something too. But knowing that I want it to be that way, I'm trying to think of which way I want. I think I'm going to go this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a pencil, and I'm going to put a little dot right there. Okay, so I need to go through the box, those 2 layers with my paper piercer, just to get everything started. And I'm going to have to make the hole a little bit big, but once I get the hole here, I can go through this other part of the box by opening this up. But it has to be big enough that I can get that through. I think that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to take this off and make sure I have a big enough hole here, because it has to go through both layers. And if it doesn't, I'll get my scissors and poke a bigger hole, but I think it's working. And I want you to see this part because I'm sure that you're going to, I know it takes time to see this, but I think it's going to make a difference. So, I'm going to go ahead and get my lights back. And this is just like threading this through both layers. And I'm going to go through this layer first. And you can see that's going to work for those lights. Now you still need to be careful with what you're doing because we don't want to wreck the lights. So here, let me do this first. I forgot that this side also needs to be made bigger. You can see I'm just going on the inside of the box. The outside is great, but I need to get sure I got the inside as well. And as long as you get your hole big enough, it should work. Okay, let's give that a try again. So, got the end. And I'm going to go through that hole. Now it works. Okay, so it's like threading a needle in a way. And I'm going to get all of this through first. And this is just how you start with your base. It's kind of nice. I have a fair amount here. Okay, so then now I'm at the end. See? Now I could go ahead and make that hole bigger and get that to go all the way in, or I could keep it on the outside. But I'm going to see if it lets me. Yeah. Because otherwise I got to take it out all over again, and I don't want to do that. Anyway, so I'll get that to work and show you in a minute. But I'm going to make it so that this is going to stick on the outside. I am going to try to make that hole a little bit bigger so that can be on the inside of my box so it's not showing. Just this will be showing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I did get that strung through, and it's going to be taut once I have it together. You have to make sure you have this the right side up so that when you open this up, you'll be able to change out your... I just have to make sure before I glue this down that I have the right side up, and I'll check that before I glue it down. All right, so it did go through the side of the box, just like that. You can see how I did that. And then what I did is I started making holes across the top. And what I did is instead of the paper piercer, I used my X-Acto knife. And then I made some holes. So then I'm going to open this up, which is going to pull this just a little bit out, so that I have the room to work with it. Actually, I want to tell you, the first two lights I did not start with because I needed to have the space to open the box up. But it's not a problem. The lights will be on the inside and allow it to illuminate inside the box. So that's great. So then what I'm doing now is I am feeding these little lights. Let me get a little closer just so you can see how I do one. All right. So this one right here is not long enough for the space. I mean, I could have put another light there if I wanted to, but I like it illuminating the inside of the box. So what I do is I take this light very carefully and I just bend it. So it's kind of like, I want to say a needle, and I'm going to poke it through that hole. Now when I poke it through that hole, it'll pop right back out unless I bend this over just a little bit. Again, it's wire, so it allows me to do that so it'll stay in place. So that is what I'm going to do. I've only got the top part of this figured out so far, and then I'll add the rest of this to the bottom. And again, like I said, all I do is I bend that just a little bit and I feed it through. And see if that hole's not big enough right there, which I don't think it is. I take my X-Acto knife and I just twirl that just a little bit, and then it should be big enough for me to feed that through. Just like that. And like I said, I flip it back over to the other side. I usually don't look, but because I want you to see it, I can usually feel it and just pull that over. So I'm going to go ahead and feed that in all these different places, and I'll show you where those are when I get done. Okay, so I have all the lights strung through those holes. I can see where it's popping out just a little bit, because that's like when I had to add at the beginning, which will be able to just bend that wire a little bit. Okay, so I have it all strung together like I said, and then I'm going to be closing that down, and as you can see on the side, I've got the wires hanging out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this in. This is what I'll do when I'm done, but I'm going to still decorate the inside, so I can't completely close this up yet, but I want you to see how this is going to look with just the lights, and this will be tucked inside. And we'll have that to the side like that. So to turn on the lights, let's make sure I can do that. Yeah, there's this little tab right here to disengage that from the batteries, and then I just flip this little black switch. Whoops. I took this out that will disengage from the batteries, which you couldn't see. And then I'm going to turn it on with this little switch right here. Let's see if you can see that better. Alright, so it's hard to see because it's not dark in here, but all those lights are on. So let me see if I can make it just a little bit darker by closing my curtain. There. That might help a little bit. I'm still not really dark, but I can see it in here. Let's tip it. All those lights are on right now, and there's a couple in there that are illuminating. So the next step is to decorate. the inside and the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and get things together that we can use to put in and on this. Okay, so in this PaperCraft box, you will receive a stencil. It's not exactly the same type of stencil you would get from Lisa Horton. Usually they are numbered and you have your peg system on here. That's not what we have this time, but we have a wonderful stencil. It is a poinsettia, and you also get a booklet that comes with it, and it actually shows you in here how to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm not really going to do anything fancy, but I think I want a couple of these to go on my box. So I've pulled out some ink. The first one is Spiced Plum, and I'm going to use that to start in the centers of the petals. I learned this from one of the DT, actually Claire. When she uses reds, she usually will add a purple to darken it. And I thought, oh, that's a clever idea. But I actually use it a little bit more for shading. All right, so I don't want to move that. The next color I'm going to use is Dusky. I want to say always Dusty, but it's Dusky Rose. And that will be just a little bit of this layer. I actually don't use a whole lot of this, but because I tend to like it to be, I want it to go really well with the box colors. So I'm trying to keep that in mind as well, that the colors match. And I might have to change this one color, but I think I'm going to go this route. So there's 3 layers to the stencil. I'm assuming this is the first layer. There isn't a number, and usually Lisa has a number system on each one of hers too, but you know, honestly, it doesn't really matter in this case for what we're doing. All right, so then the next one I'm going to be using is an interference ink, because it's the color red that I want, and that's Cherry Bomb. Whoops. I'm using Cherry Bomb. And another, and I'm going to come from this side and go up. So if you want it to be more of a vibrant red, just go over this whole business, which is what I'm showing you. If you don't go over all of it. Keep a little bit more of the pink. But I think this is like the colors in which will go well with the outside of the box. And when you normally do stenciling, I like to take my time. But when I'm in a video, because time is important, I go a little bit quicker. But it's actually more enjoyable for me when I take my time. And I know that I could always speed these up, but I think it's more fun to see it as the actual time that it takes. Which means this video will be a little bit longer. But the thing that's nice about videos is you always can stop and start and come back. It's just that you know it's all in one place for when you do come back. Okay. So that would be our first layer. And that's what that would look like. All right, so then our next layer, and make sure I've got this the right way, because this is the first time I've done this too. So the way you can really tell is you can line up the center and see how that center will line up with that piece right there. I'm not really sure. Even, you know, it's hard to know which is the front and the back. So we're just going to see what we can do here to make sure that it looks like it's going to go together. So we're just going to keep rotating. I want to say, well, you know what? Looking at the picture would be helpful. All right, so this one layer is going to go on top. You have some little pieces that go in the center. All right. All right. 2 layers down here. It really is. There we go. There we go. Line up these 2 down here. See these down here? Depending on which layer you use first, line up these 2 layers down here. And that works. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and start just like we did before with a spiced plum. And this is good to watch if somebody hasn't done it before. It's the same deal. You can see how I had to rotate around. Now, let me tell you a tip now that I know what I'm doing. I'm going to get a permanent marker, and I'm going to put the number at the top, like 1, 2, 3, and then I will know which way it goes the next time because I'm going to be making more than one of these. Now, one thing I didn't think about was to even match this up with dye. If the dye goes with this, I'm pretty sure it does. We'll see. If it doesn't, I will be fussing cutting this out. But we'll check that out too. Okay, so the next one is the Dusky Pink. And so that's what I do for all the petals. You can do whatever you want to do. If you want to make a blue poinsettia, you want to make it so it's predominantly a white poinsettia. You use different, obviously, inks, but you can do the same concept, just thinking about a dark, a medium, and a darker. I actually did a dark center, a light, and then I did more of the bright color of what the main focus color will be. If you do a white, you'd be using like a gray. One of the really cool inks that Lisa has is the anthracite. I think that's how you say it. It looks like it's a black ink, but when you go to use it, depending on how heavy you are with adding your ink, it can have a bluish green cast to it, and it's really awesome because it gives you a flexibility in terms of how much ink you add to it to what it will look like. The more ink, the darker it becomes, and it looks more black. But I've made really beautiful bumblebee wings. They look, I don't know, I just love it for wings. I think it's beautiful. Like, you know, bumblebee wings, not bird wings per se, but that would be pretty too. And then if you just like doing anything with the neutral color, the anthracite, it'd be like if anybody asked me what would be the only ink you would buy if you could only buy one, it'd be anthracite. But I love all of the inks, but that would be, I know a lot of people like the interference inks because of how you can get it to change colors based upon what paper you're using. But for me, I like the anthracite. I mean, this what I'm using right now is an interference ink, and if I tilt it, you would see there was some shimmer to it. So that's nice. I mean, that you get the shimmer. I mean, it's really pretty. See, I missed a little bit. So there's only one more stencil layer for this one. Many times Lisa can have up to 10. I don't know if there's been more than 10 in any of her stencils, to be honest with you. All right. So we know that one goes that way. See how beautiful? I mean, it's just really pretty. So like I said, I'm going to be marking those so I know which way it goes. Now, again, we're going to check this one out. and see how it goes. It goes this way. So these are supposed to be, I'm going to double check the photo. All of these are leaves. Those are all leaves. And so I'm changing up my colors, and I will be using Woodland Moss, and I'm going to use Merry Mistletoe. Lots of times if you don't have Merry Mistletoe, because this is a limited edition, you could actually use the Eucalyptus Leaves, works really well also. So I'm going to start it with the darkest color on the inside. I will slide that down a little bit. Okay. So I'm doing the same concept like I did with the, petals. Line that up a little bit. There we go. And I'm putting the darkest color towards the base. And I think this color really works well with the box, the green of the box. I'm trying to see if the Woodland Moss is going to be as well matching, but I think it is. Now, typically when you get Lisa's full collection of her stencils, she usually includes the veining of her petals and her leaves. This one does not come with the veining. You can do several things to add your own veining. You could actually use your colored pencils and put some veining in yourself if you want, or you can just leave it as is. This in the center, I am going to come back and use the spiced plum. All right. So I'm going to actually use the same brush. And again, I'm going to come down from the top. I might take a peek of that because I might want more of the, I think, was that mistletoe? Oh, Merry Mistletoe, yeah. I might want more of that. We'll see. But Woodland Moss, again, if someone was going to ask me what's your favorite green, Woodland Moss is my favorite green, and if I don't want it to be plain, I usually add Eucalyptus Leaves. So those are my two favorite greens, but this is your preference as to what you like. So like I said, I'm probably going to make a couple of these. I'm going to see how this one looks to see if I want to make two for my box. And again, like I said, you can use any of Lisa's collection to add to your box. I'm just going to use as much of the actual box, I think. The paper it came with is not going to probably work for this box because it's not exactly the color of the outside of the box. It'll make great cards, but not so much going with the box. All right, so I've got those two done. I'm going to bring back in my spiced plum and do the center. Now what you can do for this is you can highlight those if you want to with the, I have a gold gel pen that I really like. That works really well. All right, but what I'm going to do, because I don't think I want so much of this whiteness, I'm going to come back in here with this and lightly swirl it. See, so it makes it a little bit more, kind of like that better. And then I'm going to come back in with a stencil and make it darker again. Okay, so where's my stencil? And just highlight that again. Because your tone on tone will bring it darker, bring it back. Okay. Yep, I think I like that better than it's not. So that is going to be what the stencil looks like. There are also stamps that you can also use with this, which I'll probably use some of these because I will need some foliage. So I'm going to go ahead, and they all come with the dies. So that's cool. I'm not really sure that this might be the die for the, let's see, I bet it is. I bet it's for this. I could be wrong. Figure it out. I'll let you know. So I'm going to go ahead and get this done, make another one, and I'll be back. Okay, good news. The die that comes with the set actually, let's see if I get this right way around. Now, of course, I'm going to show you, and it's not going the right way around. Hold on. There we go. Actually works for this stencil, and it works for the stamp. Yay! So it's double duty. The thing I want to do right now is I am going to be using Versamark clear embossing powder, and I am going to be hopefully not smearing this, stamping on top of these because the box is shiny, and this is a little bit dull on this paper. So I decided that I am going to clear emboss and make my images shiny. I just thought it just made sense to try to be it a little bit similar. And I knew that by the time I got done stenciling, the ink was not going to be wet enough. So I just used the VersaFine. Now, if you think your ink's going to be wet enough, you don't need to do this. And if you don't want yours to be shiny either. What I could have done, still, I could have used my pencil, and I could have given those more veins before I added this embossing powder. But I didn't. So, but that's an option. So I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss that. I think I missed a little spot down here. And die cut it, and I'll be back. Okay, so I've decided I want to change the background color of the box. I decided I don't want it to be burgundy. And the papers that it came with was really made for cards. They weren't made for the back of the box. So I'm going to be creating my own background using some of the inks I used on the Poinsettia of the Green. I measured what the inside of the box was going to be, and I would give you that measurement, but I'm afraid that if I give it and it's not exact, it might not work. So you need to measure your own to make sure. So I'm just going to be doing the smooshing technique, and I'm going to be using Eucalyptus Leaves, and I'm going to be using the Merry Mistletoe. I think those colors work best. And I'm going to spritz that with a little bit of water and break that up. And it's a lot of paper, so I'm going to be doing this a couple of times. As you can see, it's going to be like all over the place. And I want it a little bit lighter too. So what I'm going to do this time, as you can see, this is what it looks like. Every time you do it, it's going to be different. I don't want as dark as what it was. So I don't want that line. So I need to let this dry a little bit. But I think it's going to go okay. I need a little bit more of a green, I think, to it to add to that. because it's a little bit too blue, I think, maybe, because the color on the box, I'm going to show you. I get my hands clean. The color on the box is not as blue as that, but it has blue in the leaves. So what I'm going to do is grab that other green that I had. I'm going to make sure. I'm going to use a Woodland Moss just because I want to have a little bit of green to it. Wait, this, I don't want to mess it up. My ink pad. So blending does make a difference. And this is still a little damp, but I'm going to give it another spritz. Break that up. So what I really need to do, I wanted it to mix so it wasn't just the blue and the yellowish green. I wanted it to be combined, and I think I'm getting that color now. But I don't really want all the lines as much. So I'm going to do this to take some of those lines out. But I think I'm getting the color that I'm wanting. So it's like playing around. And those two colors are a little bit wet. It's giving me, and it's going to dry a little bit lighter. Because I'm going to come back in here and stamp with a poinsettia stamp. And I'm going to try to do ones that are tone on tone. So I think that's going to work. It looks kind of light right here. It is kind of light, really. But I think I've got the color now better. Oh, it's so hard. Let me put this other light on. Maybe that'll show up better. Maybe not. Anyway, the color is working. And I'm going to use that for the background. This part up here, I'll probably use some ink. I will blend in some ink. And then I'll stamp on top of this with a poinsettia. I think that'll be tone on tone. I think that'll look good all over the background. All right, I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to kind of make a watercolored background, and you'll see what I mean when I say that. I am using the stamp that came with this set, and I'm going to use Eucalyptus Leaves. And I'm going to stamp this, but I don't really want a really defined color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly spritz this. And then I'm going to stamp it. It's still giving me a defined color, so we're going to go with that. Well, it's kind of not. It's a little bit lighter. We'll use that. And then I'm just going to randomly stamp this on the background. It's going to be my background paper. I could have second generation stamped it. I probably should have, but I've already done that, so I'm not gonna. I did add a little bit of water to that. And that's what I'm gonna do for my, and I'm gonna alternate the bigger, like that. I don't want it to be perfect. Easier not to be perfect. All right. Whoops. Be nice if I had it the right way around. Now this piece right here is hanging over, but I think I'll be okay. Yep. Okay. So it makes a quick paper. And I'm going to have to slide it up so I can get the bottom half. I'll keep that out of the way. Whoa, well, I just ripped off the paper. That's okay, because I can put more ink there. I was going to try to be careful, and I didn't. All right, but what I'll do is I'll ink that up, because I did the edges already. So let's do it like that. And it's not going to show up that much in the box anyway. All right. But we'll fix it. And this, because it's a little bit wet, it's soaking in. I like that too. All right, last one. Now, if I wanted to get even more creative, there's leaves in this set, but I don't think I need to, because I think there's enough going on, like there's a space there. All right. I think that looks good for what I want to do for the background. Be careful taking that off this time. And I need to fix that part, but I think that'll work fine for the background. And another thing, you could always add color, you can do whatever you want to do. There's so many things you can do. Let me show you how I'm going to fix this little piece right here. In case you do what I just did. There we go. And I'm using Eucalyptus Leaves. Now, is it covering it up perfectly? Not really, but it's not going to show like I told you, because it's going to be inside the box towards the edge. It'll be covered up. But I just know that it's done. So that's fine for me. Okay, so that's for the back. That'll work. Okay, so I have the paper inside. And you can see that's the background. I think it looks really good with the front. So that's going to be our base for our box. And then, like I said, the next things that I will be doing is embellishing the box and adding more to it. So I'm going to be making more embellishments, but because this video is fairly long right now, I'm going to end the video now, and then I'm going to come back and make a second video showing you the embellishments and how I'm attaching them. So I want to thank you for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you come back to see how I will complete this box. Thanks so much.